DBMS Important Questions, Part 1. The first question here is, what are the differences between the file system and DBMS? Or the question can be asked like, list out the advantages of DBMS over file system. Here, the file system is nothing but the files that you create in C, C++, and Java. So we are going to look into the advantages of maintaining a database system over those file systems that you see in C, C++, and Java. So here are the lists. The first one is data redundancy and inconsistency. And second one, difficulty in accessing the data. And third one, data isolation problems, and fourth one, integrity problems, followed by atomicity of updates, concurrent access by multiple users, and security problems. Let's try to analyze each concept in detail in exam point of view here. Data redundancy and inconsistency. Redundancy is the concept of repetition of data. That is, each data is being copied more than a single time. So we are looking into the multiple copies of the system. So what is the problem that we face here? There may be a possibility that two users are maintaining same files data for different applications, you assume. So here, if one user makes a change in any of the file, that it does not get reflected in the second user's file. So what happens here? The data is becoming inconsistent. Whereas DBMS controls redundancy by maintaining single repository of data. What is meant by single repository? That means we are dumping the complete records or the data in one single location where many users can access the data from that single location with ease. As there is no or less redundancy, the data depends inconsistency. So inconsistency and redundancy can be overcome in database management system. The second advantage of DBMS over file system is difficulty in accessing data can be overcome. So what happens here? File system does not allow you to share the data, or sharing is too complex over here. Whereas in DBMS, data can be shared easily due to the centralized system, like how we have discussed in the previous point. And moreover, if it's in file system, you may have to write new program for each task that you have to carry out. So which is little complex, I can say more complex to handle in the file system, whereas you have inbuilt commands, or you can say the ready-made queries existing in your DBMS through which you can get out your desired data with ease. Data isolation. So what is this data isolation? So this is nothing but the property that determines when and how changes made by one operation becomes visible to the other users at the same time who are accessing that particular content of the data. Because the data sharing can happen very easily in database management system, where this is not the thing with respect to the file system. Moreover, database management system can easily handle multiple file formats, like MP3, MP4, PPT, .coc, etc. and all, right? So those files, different file formats, can be easily handled in respect to database management system. Integrity problems or data integrity. There may be cases when some constraints need to be applied on the data before inserting it into the database. Like how you can see the account balance should be greater than 0. So if I'm trying to enter the value whose value is equal to 0 or less than 0, there raises an error that the account balance should be greater than 0. So what is this? This is nothing but a constraint or a rule or a criteria that you're fixing for the column account balance. So using this, the integrity of your complete data base, or I can say your complete system, will be improved. Whereas in file system, it does not provide any procedure to check these constraints automatically. Whereas DBMS maintains data integrity by enforcing user-defined constraints on the data by itself. And moreover, it is hard to add new constraints or change the existing one with respect to the file system. If in case there are any constraints, it is hard to handle that kind of constraints with respect to the file system. So next one, atomicity of updates. So let's try to understand this one with an example. Assume there are two accounts, account A and B, and I thought of transferring some 200 rupees from account A to account B. So my program is about 10 steps process for the complete transaction. For this complete transaction to happen, all the 10 steps has to be executed properly. But it happened like my ninth step has failed and all the remaining steps have been executed. So my ninth step failed, and here what should happen? Here in my first few steps, this 2000 has been deducted from my account, and whereas my ninth step has failed, this 2000 has not been credited to the account B yet. In this case, if I speak about the file system which is handling this process, this 2000 will not be bounced back to account A because of the inconsistency issues that happen in the file system. Whereas with respect to database management system, immediately once any of the step fails in the complete process, the amount will be refunded back to the initial state. I can say the complete process will be rolled back and 200 will be immediately credited back to account A. So what is happening here? We are trying to avoid the inconsistency condition, and the proper updation of the data is happening in no time with respect to the database management system. For that, we have some complete separate topic called as transaction management, which completely deals with this concept of atomicity of updates. So that's what it says. Failures may leave database in an inconsistent state with partial updates carried out. The next one is concurrent access by multiple users, which we have already discussed in the previous point. Anyways, concurrent access to data means more than one user is accessing the same data at a time. So this leads to something called as anomalies. So anomalies in the sense is nothing but the issues or the problems that you may face due to the changes made. For example, there's one user who made some changes, and due to the changes made in the data, it caused some issues to the other users. So in this kind of scenario, you have something called as locking system in database management system. That means locking methodology in database management system. Whereas file system does not provide any procedure or any method through which you can overcome this kind of anomalies or the confusions in the data. Whereas coming to the next one is security problem. File system provides a password mechanism to protect the data, but how longer can the password be protected? No one can guarantee that. This does not happen in case of DBMS. DBMS has specialized features that help in providing proper shield, or I can say the proper protection to the database. So proper authentication mechanism do exist in database management system, whereas coming to the file system. There's one more advantage that is not mentioned here, that is system crashing. In some cases, systems might have crashes due to various reasons. And it is a ban in case of file system because once the system crashes, there won't be any proper recovery, or I can say there won't be any recovery of data that is lost. Whereas DBMS will have a recovery manager which retrieves the data, making it another advantage over the file system. So we have something called as recovery manager in the DBMS that helps in retrieving the data in case of system crash. So finally, database system offers to all the above problems. So if your question is about what are the differences between database management system and the file system, or what are the advantages of DBMS over file system, then your answer should be about data redundancy and inconsistency, difficulty in accessing the data isolation, integrity problems, atomicity of updates, concurrent access by multiple users, security problems, and also you can address about the system crashes issues. So overall, these 7 points are to be covered for the question. Thank you very much.